And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream together with my colleague and friend Paul Eiter from
Hi.
Notch Consulting.
Hi, everyone. It's great to join you. Great. Thanks, Martin, for setting us up. I'm excited.
What do we have news to tell, Paul?
Well, we have a big announcement. Our new report, Prospects for Recovered Carbon Black, is available. We worked hard on it.
We did.
Very hard. And I'm very, very excited to be offering it. I think it's a terrific report, and I'm really proud of it. And it's great to be behind a product that I feel, without any reservations, I can recommend wholeheartedly. So we worked together on it. Last time we did it, it was more your report and my report. We sold them together, which I thought worked at that time. But this time we just really worked at integrating the whole report into a single sort of unified vision of what we think is going on in the recovered carbon black industry. And I think the result was it really speaks for itself. So
it's the ultimate report, right? 135 pages PDF plus an Excel, which you do always with your carbon black reports, which gives current capacity, future capacity, pricing. So really good report. What can we say about how we beefed it up? What sections were reworked most?
Well, I think on your side, I was really happy that a lot of the regulatory pieces are more complete. The technology section is much more complete. We expanded the company profiles for big and small companies alike, including contact information and a discussion of their technology, a list of what companies' current capacity is now and what future capacity will be. We talked to everyone about their plans and made our own evaluations about the schedules. So and then on my side, we added the forecast through 2032, breakdown by grade and market and region. So I think it's a good report. How about you?
And there's a lot of changes, right, in the figures. We talking with the industry, and we talk with all major players and ask them about the status of their project, but also the status of the industry. And I think we picked up quite a few trends, which were pretty similar for the global industry. And that was really that was useful, and that really helped evolve from our previous edition of the report.
Absolutely. And I think we did a lot of interviews. I think there was 3 months where we just did nothing but speak to people, which was great because it really helps me look at some of what my assumptions that I thought going in were really changed. But I think the one thing we both agreed to and that everyone reiterated was that, the growth spurt that we had been looking at is a little bit delayed. I think every project that we looked at, every major project was delayed by easily 6 months, sometimes 12 to 18 months. So there just was a little bit of a delay. I do think the growth is coming, but there was a little bit of, it's a really, really difficult environment right now, and separate from recovered carbon black, but it's just a very difficult environment to undertake major capital projects, major new plants, especially for companies building their first capacity, between interest rates, private equity being squeezed, shortages of key materials. You got shortage of steel. You've heard about shortage of concrete, some permitting issues here and there. But just all of those combined made it for a really difficult period for these last 12 months to be starting up new plants. And I think everyone we talked to sort of reiterated that. But I think
what was really interesting yesterday, when we had the day before yesterday, when we had the webinar, and we invited also Robert Hansen from Monolith. Monolith not being a tire pyrolysis company, but a methane pyrolysis company, and they're no startup anymore. There are 300 colleagues, and they really made inroads into the market. And they're much more advanced in the scaling up, but even they are delayed in a way. And between you and I, we said that they could pretty much lead the way and be inspirational for the tire pyrolysis industry, because the tire pyrolysis industry is like following their footsteps, going into the market of sustainable carbon black.
Right. I agree. I mean, I think Rob and his team over there, whom I've known, and I think you've known, I've known them when they were still a startup operating out of an office. They really paved the way. And I think a lot of their challenges are being reiterated now this new generation of recovered carbon black companies. And also, in our conversations, we talk to companies at all stages of development, from just starting their first commercial plant up to scaling up an existing commercial plant. And the other universal message we heard from everyone was that each of those stages has very unique and major challenges. And I think one of the maybe misconceptions that people had about the industry was, well, once a company has one commercial plant running, it won't be difficult to just
it's all
multiply that. But in fact, the scale up is as challenging, if not more so, than each of those previous stages, like jumping from lab to pilot to commercial to scale up. Each of those is its own unique.
And sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So what I see, the whole topic about permit and product regulatory registration, REACH in Europe, Toxical Substances Control Act in the US, for example.
Right.
And then, of course, there's UK REACH, there's Korea REACH. It gets complex. But this is only relevant now. This was not relevant for companies that had a garage technology, and whose interest was to find investors, maybe to get samples out in the tire, rubber, and plastics industry.
Right. And the other thing we've learned is, when you're
I think you're breaking up, Paul.
I just lost you there for a second. Sorry about that. Did you have
me? I think internet was a bit slow. Maybe you can just repeat. It was just 10 seconds.
I just wanted to say that I think one of the things we heard is that, when you're scaling up from pilot to commercial to industrial economy of scale, I think issues that might not seem major when you're producing 5,000 tons a year will become very significant when you're producing 50,000 tons a year. It becomes impossible to ignore, sweep anything under the rug when you're at commercial scale. It just, and the production schedule is just very rigid. You have to have really stable uptime. We've talked to a number of suppliers who were very involved in this, that the amount of uptime is really, really important, that customers want to be able to see that your product is consistent, that you have good, stable uptime, and that you are able to scale. Those are I think the issues that people are looking for.
And that's the evolution where the industry still needs to learn, right? You can't only optimize on the operational cost to drive down the OPEX when you have the industrial installation. And there's, I think it's safe to say, there's a lot of technologies out there for the pyrolysis reactor. What will sort them out eventually by 2030 is the thermal efficiency and the quality of products they produce.
Those two issues, I think, will be the decider. And another thing we just mentioned is, I think you can't ignore either the oil or the recovered carbon black. We've spoken in the past, and our whole report is focused on recovered carbon black. But I think the leaders that we talked to said you really need to integrate both those streams really thoughtfully and conscientiously into your business plan. If you don't make a plan for the oil, then
I think even the interest or the appetite of the petrochemical industry and the carbon black industry for tire pyrolysis oil is even bigger than the appetite of the industries to take the recovered carbon black. And this is because the oil you can very easily use in the mass balance approach. Maybe get rid of the very light stuff, and then so that you can transport it well. But the appetite for the oil is immense, and there's just not enough volumes. And even the scale of growth we project will not be enough, not even for the carbon black industry. Despite,
every supplier we talk to in North America and Europe says they have a customer waiting list. That even with their expansions, those expansions are already meted out to customers, and that they have customers on waiting lists. But I think you're right about the oil. I think the oil fits in a little bit more easily into the existing infrastructure, and I think there's a lot of demand for it. And the other thing we mentioned, the other piece about the oil that's interesting, is that oil using the TPO in a circular carbon black allows that recovered carbon black, or that new carbon black, to be used in reinforcing grades. And that's, I think, an area where existing recovered carbon black has not really been able to move into there. So I think
And
that
that synergy makes that this is my favorite
right.
combination, really, of all to get the sustainability, to have the circular carbon black on the furnace process from tire pyrolysis oil, which tends to be a hard black,
Right.
and then to have a recovered carbon black. And here another trend we've picked up also is blends. Blends look
Right.
like an immediate way of commercializing recovered carbon black. And there's a number of possibilities. Cabot has blends, Macrochem has blends. So this is a quick way to get into the market.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Cabot, because I think that their announcement is the perfect encapsulation of what I just mentioned. They really, that first piece of the Evolve, which is an entire platform, but that first piece included 2 grades. One was a sustainable black that's made from TPO, and the second one, which is a reinforcing grade, and then the second one is a blend at 10% RCB, and that's a semi-reinforcing grade. So I think that that's a good example of exactly that piece we just talked about. And then you just mentioned Macrochem. They're a big distributor of carbon black in previously in Europe and now globally, and they introduced a new line of blends that has both some 300 series.
Now I can't hear you anymore, but Macrochem has 300, 200, and I think 500 and 600.
Now we're back. Sorry.
You're back.
I
tried to fill in.
We keep having a delay. But anyway, I just wanted to mention they have a set of grades that are blended RCB at different percentages. And some are 300 series, and then some are, I think, 500 and 600 series.
I think there's 300, 200, 500, and 600, really covering almost everything.
A broad range. So really, that makes a really significant addition to the availability of the blended products.
And I think they have 2 levels, 20% and 30% recovered carbon black. And there's a specific nomenclature for it. So this is good to see recovered carbon black in the market. And another, I think, news really from the last report to this report is an overview on specifications. And there's been a lot of developments going on in specifications, with me being the first one with a rough shot for RCB1, RCB2, then the collaboration work of RCB Rubber, Michelin and Bridgestone, which was really brilliant work to show how important it is to specify the feedstock. And then I think last but not least, last week, the ASTM D36 committee came up with a first proposal of a RCB categorization with 4 tests only, which is really good, which is even more tests than for the furnace carbon black. Furnace carbon black is only the iodine number and the oil absorption number. But with recovered carbon black being much more complex in the composition, I think 4 tests are a good way of characterizing recovered carbon black. So that,
and they showed the nomenclature that allows you to sort of immediately understand the parameters of that particular grade, which I think is really helpful and something we've needed and very, very welcome. So congratulations to everybody who worked on that. I think
absolutely, because that is needed so that a customer can say, we want this particular type of recovered carbon black. The manufacturer manufactures exactly this. And this would allow that several manufacturers of recovered carbon black manufacture the same product category within ranges, of course. That is so important, because the tire industry, actually all the polymer industries, they're very risk averse. They don't like single sourcing. With a small company, you don't know whether what is the stability of supply, and you don't want to stop your production lines. So then you can have safety stock, but that's one of the issues next to not having enough volume, but having all the volume from one supplier, all the eggs in one basket. That is a heavy risk.
I talked to people on both the customer and supply side where that really would not, I mean, tire companies are not going to sign on to a supply contract where there's not a secondary supplier pre-approved that's available to fill those slots. It just is not a way to scale up. So yeah, I agree that, and we've talked about this, that the industry right now, that the industry will consolidate around a number of market leaders, both globally and then probably regionally as well. But that the more we can standardize that nomenclature and the standards, the better that's going to be, that we can understand, apples to apples to apples
You know,
comparison
that's
from one.
interesting because on the one hand, we don't want one supplier to be the only supplier in the world. That
Right.
would be really problematic. But then we don't want like 50 suppliers either with each different product qualities. That's difficult to
Yeah.
handle. So there will maybe a compromise of a handful of companies. Even if you look at our company list, which is somewhat 20 companies we're mentioning,
Maybe a few
uh,
more.
maybe a few more. But really, when you look at who are the heavy hitters, you're down to a handful,
Maybe six.
five,
Yeah,
six
6 or
companies.
7
Yeah,
between Europe and North America and a little bit in Asia as
yeah,
well.
and also
Which is
who have the track record, right?
right, for sure, certainly. And I was just going to say, that's the way it's been in the conventional carbon black industry as well, where your standardized ASTM grades are pretty much the same company to company, and then there's the opportunity for differentiation at the specialty level, where you may offer a grade that's not offered by anyone else, that's specifically custom tailored to one specific thing. And I think some of those variations are going to be acceptable in recovered carbon black as long as we have the base of understanding what each grade does and what its characteristics are.
Interesting topic which we touched on in the Smithers webinar as well about sustainable carbon black is the concept of the drop-in.
Right.
While for the circular carbon black, furnace carbon black from tire pyrolysis oil, which is considered pretty much a drop-in solution, there's no drop-in solution yet really for recovered carbon black. And the question also, I think, evolves over the market cycle. And when there's a big shortness, like right now coming up in Europe, where we have a supply gap of 600,000 tons, I think the readiness of the tire industry and the rubber industry to drop in is increasing, whereas in other times, they're really not liking to change from one supplier to the other, even being picky up to specifying which is the reactor they want the product from.
Right. And I think this is something we talked about in the webinar, and I think that we really talked about a lot in the report, which is that the attitude toward recovered carbon black has really shifted over the last few years, where it really was viewed as this competitive material, and a lot of the RCB suppliers were trying to think, we're thinking of it in the way of we're replacing carbon black, we're displacing carbon black, and that's how the carbon black suppliers saw it as well. It was more a competitive material than it was a synergistic material. And I think we've seen a major change in attitudes on both sides and from customers as well over the last few years, maybe the last even year.
Now there's internet problems again, but there really is a paradigm change in the carbon black industry going on. And I could feel it 2018 and the World Carbon Black World
Okay,
Conference.
we're back. But I just have seen a shift in terms of seeing those materials as much more complementary than competitive or antagonistic. And I think that I hope that that's the model going forward, because I think we both agree that that's the avenue toward that. First of all, that's the avenue toward having a drop-in replacement, is to have a blend between a conventional carbon black and a recovered.
That's the enabler, right? Well, we have internet difficulties again. Maybe I can tell again. 2018 in the carbon black world, there was really pushback from the furnace carbon black industry. Whereas last year in the recovered carbon black conference, all the big carbon black makers were there. And they're actually now, as you said, Paul, they are embracing recovered carbon black as one part of their offer on their journey to sustainability.
Exactly. Agreed.
What you maybe didn't hear, 2018 World Carbon Black World in Düsseldorf, there was a lot of pushback from the furnace carbon black industry. And there was only one presentation allowed for recovered carbon black, and there was Peter Tahar, back then Pyrolix, and myself. And then I did the workshop, which led to the creation of the recovered carbon black conference. So now furnace carbon black industry is much more embracing new materials.
I think so. And let's give a plug to the upcoming conference. We've got the Barcelona conference coming up in November. I think I'm excited for that. And that'll be our next opportunity to meet with everybody in person, I think.
Absolutely. On the 7th and 8th of November in the Grand Hyatt Tower in Barcelona.
It'll be
It
good.
will be a really good conference. There's some things I cannot tell yet, but we're going to do really
Surprises.
good new stuff,
Great.
and it will be a really great conference.
I'm excited. I'm excited to go, and I'm excited for the report. So I'm really happy that we got it finished, and I'm happy that we can offer it. And put it out in the world, and I hope that people find it useful. And also, it helps us a lot to hear back from people. And a lot of what we did in this version of the report was people coming back saying, "I'd like to see more of this or more of that." So that is really helpful for people.
And we responded
to say what they would like to see, and we do our best to provide it. And
in this live stream, we don't have questions, Paul. I mean, what could be possible questions we need to answer? I mean, if you are interested in our report, just contact me or contact Paul, and we answer all your questions. Also, on both our websites, there will be a detailed contents of the structure of the report, so that you can see what you get. How many years have you been in report business, Paul?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was just thinking this year will be my 20th anniversary for the Carbon Black Report. So I'm excited that August will be the 20th edition of the data book. So I'm going to kind of plan some special things for that. But I've been doing it for another probably 5 or 7 years beyond that. So say after 25 years, I've probably been doing it in one form or another.
I'm only 8 years, but together we're 28 years, right?
Yeah. What was I going to say? So I'm excited. If people have questions, they can come to us, and we're happy to answer them. I hope that I see us as an avenue to talk to help the industry come together and just sort of act as a clearinghouse of information for the industry. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of announcements. There's a lot of activity, and I hope that we can sort through a lot of the information out there and hopefully make sense of it in a way that is helpful to people, and a really, I feel, clear-headed forecast that takes into account existing carbon black demand, customer expectations, and availability of high quality RCB, and really put those together into what I hope
we
is
see it as a reference report, right? A reference report everybody should have to have as a base information about the industry. And I think it is, the only report that really can cater for that. I've seen so many reports that still mention very old companies that are long time closed, so you need to have an updated report from industry experts. I think Paul is frozen again with his coffee cup.
There you are. Sorry, we lost you again.
Back.
Maybe we should wrap up, because I think we're having some trouble. But I think what you were just saying is I don't like to disparage any competitors at all. And I think there's some really good people operating in this space. But some of the reports we see, you and I see on this sector,
better watch what you're
RCB
buying,
in
or from
particular, I
whom
see
you
it
buy.
in carbon black. I see it in all the industries, but some of them are really, really not good and not useful to the industry. So I do hope in our work that we're just trying to present something that is accurate and complete and not outdated. So there are some reports out there that just really are not great. So I'm not going to name any names, but and then there's some people out there operating in this space who are really, really terrific. So I do think the industry has attracted some really good energy, and I'm happy to
strong energy.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm really excited to bring this report into the market. So if you want to buy the report, you have the choice. Either you go to Paul on this site, or you go in my web shop, it'll be a pleasure to answer any questions you might have.
Absolutely.
We think it's really a fab report.
Absolutely. All right, great. It's great to talk to you, Martin.
Thank you, Paul. Have a great day.
All right.
Thank you for watching.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now. Take care.